Welcome to the DevReady podcast, where we're helping non-techs build great tech. Today, we're fortunate enough to be joined by Oliver Wolf. He is the product owner at Kind, and I've been calling him Kinde for the past few years as we've been using him within our ecosystem and our clients and working with the team. But apparently, they're called Kind. So, Oliver, thank you for joining us and coming on and sharing probably a bit about product management, a bit about your background and what it's like being working in a startup, and we'll dig into some of the benefits of working with someone like Kind. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good to be here. Yeah, I've been at Kind for just over 2.5 years. I was hired as a product manager or product owner. We don't live by
Yeah.
titles here at Kind, but I am the only product person here.
Yes.
But I don't spend probably majority of my day doing products. I do many things, wear many hats as you do in a startup. I do all the things that our amazing engineers help me and basically in shield light to what the product is, and then I explain to our market all the main things we do. So I do product, I do sales, and I do support, and my time between them is probably a third each. And then all these little things beneath the graps as well. I actually do product marketing as well. I actually control our socials and post on our socials all different marketing content for our products. And yeah, I love it.
There's a major advantage to doing sales and being in touch with the customer as a product owner because you need to understand what the customers actually need. So there's a big win there because sometimes you can get different, like pulled apart from the customer if you just there's 20 product owners managing a category. How do we get in front of customers? But if you're doing sales, there's a big piece to that and how you can actually have some conversations. But for today, let's take three steps back. I'd love to learn a bit more about Oliver, the product owner, product manager, how you got into that role, what's your background, just so the audience can get a bit of an understanding of where you've been and then how you got to Kind.
Yeah, sure, I can explain. So I actually started out as a software engineer. I used to work at a company called WiseTech,
Yeah.
quite a
Big,
household name in the Australian
yeah, quite
tech
a very
ecosystem.
large was a billion-dollar organization. Yes.
Yeah, doing amazing. They build logistics software for this logistics industry, and I love building stuff. That's why I landed as a software engineer. And if I had two brains, honestly, I'll do product management and building software, but I don't have two brains. But I was always obsessed with being close to the customer, understanding the different use cases,
Hmm.
working with the team to understand the best solution to their use case, and just having this constant feedback loop of working with customers.
Yep.
And so that's when I learned about product management there in WiseTech and did actually a little stint there. But then I moved to Zip
Hmm.
as a product
So
manager.
Zip Pay. Yeah.
I was there. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, people call it Zip Pay as well.
Yep.
I was a product manager in the payments experience team for just over 2 years. And yeah, that was when I started. It felt like quite a startup, but as
Yeah.
I left as well after 2 years, it felt more like a scale up. There was more sort of established mechanisms and a bit more structure and hierarchy and reporting lines. When I first joined, it was just like very harsh to get you in, like a very harsh hiring criteria. But once you're in there,
Okay.
full autonomy,
Yep.
and that was a very interesting experience.
Mm.
Very different to where I am now, where it is a lot of autonomy. So and yeah, that's a bit about my journey. Obviously, I can dig into each of those a bit more if we want to.
What are some of the things about product that you've learned across the journeys from an engineer going into product? What are some of those critical things that set you up for a role into Kind?
I think you always have to be obsessed with the problem. Like things will change, there'll be shiny new tech. AI will jump on the scene. You're like AI will be a good solution to the problem. Not always, depends on the context. But things change, the market changes, new shiny products and solutions come on. But if you're always obsessed with the problem, then you'll find the best solution. If you're the other way and you're obsessed with a solution, soon I don't know if this will be, but there'll be, I'm just using the example, might be dead in the waters and might be something else that is a better solution, but you still
Yeah.
try and score as AI. So I think you always have to be obsessed with the problem. And how to be obsessed with the problem is just thinking in the shoes of the customer. And I'm lucky because obviously a lot of our customers are engineers.
Hmm.
I was an engineer in the past.
It's
Um,
probably easy to have a
uh,
conversation to those, yeah, because they're integrating a lot
yep,
with the product. It's more of an integration rather than buy this as an end consumer. So it's a B2B sale, really.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's why as well, wearing many hats as well. Like every day I speak to customers from a sales point of view, from a support point of view as well. I am just a sponge of the customer and the voice of the customer. And I also use that within the organization to be the voice of the customer in lots of conversations. And it's just autonomous within my day to day. So I don't have to speak to people to understand more about the customer, which is very valuable.
It would be, yeah, because you want to be as close as possible to that customer in the end, because they're the ones that hold the problem, right? So if you're
100%.
disconnected from them, it makes it difficult. What's it like selling to an engineer? Probably not too important to our listeners, but fascinating from my perspective. What's it like selling to an
I
engineer?
love that question. It's really interesting because I'm the same. I want to be given information, digest it, and get back to you. I don't
Yeah,
want to be quartered into a hole and be like,
yeah,
this is what we're doing, these are the costs, you accept it right now, and if not, we're going to go elsewhere.
sure.
Engineers, I don't want to generalize, but I like to treat them like I want to be sold to. Give information, give them time to digest it, let them come back to you when they have more questions. And
Got it.
with that, the sales cycle can be pretty long because they take more time to do the decision process, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to respect that. You have to meet them where they are.
Yep. No, that's fair. Engineers generally are a sponge for detail, generally.
Yes.
So
And I like
it's,
the detail.
yeah,
I like finding the devil in the details. You got to
yeah,
pick your battle, sir.
yeah. In terms of picking your battles, that's always an interesting one. But yeah, giving them as much information as possible would make a lot of sense, but not the same in every product. So understanding your customer is critical when you're actually communicating to them. In terms
Yep.
of kind, tell us a bit about the product. So let's dig in a little bit
Yep.
so people can understand what it is, because everyone in my mind needs a product like kind. If you're building tech, do not build your authentication layer yourself. We wouldn't recommend it. Been building technology for 16 years now in our business. I think more now. I think close to 17 coming up. We always have done authentication out of the box since Auth0 came around, and that's one of the products we always went to. Kind came around, and we started trialing and testing with some of our customers, and a lot of them use it now. I think we've got 7 or 8 customers using the product. Tell us,
Amazing. Love that.
tell us a bit about the solution, why someone might want to go into building on or using something else to run your authentication layer.
I can explain a bit about kind of, then after that we can dive into a bit about the vision because I think
Yeah.
that's also really interesting and
Okay.
probably interesting for the audience. So yes, we are an authentication provider. We offer many things like plug and play with passwordless, log in with any social provider, so Google, Microsoft, solutions for sort of IDP, identity providers. So you want to log in with SSO with a Entra ID, or used to be called a Zero ID, but now Entra ID, or a Google Workspace, or Okta, or many different SAML providers. We offer out-of-the-box solutions, so it's really simple as just picking one of our SDKs. We have a whole range of front-end, back-end, mobile native SDKs,
Okay.
and integrated minutes basically with that SDK. And then you go into our admin dashboard and just toggle it on. And yeah, that's basically what Kind is from a very high level. There's many things under that that we can dig into if we want to.
Why would someone come to someone like Kind for this particular solution? Why wouldn't I build it myself?
So it's really dependent on what you want to do. And obviously there is, I just want to say up front, there are cases where it makes sense to manage it yourself. But I would say in my experience, the only probably clear value from building it yourself or scenario where you probably should build it yourself is where authentication is part of your core products. Like for example, when you are offering the unique value of logging in that others don't get. Most of the time with most of our customers, whether it be SaaS or marketplace or even e-commerce platforms, you just want to log in that works.
Yep.
You don't want to constantly manage it and make sure it has the most flashy user experience and update with modern security. And you don't want to spend engineering time updating and maintaining that. So you want to spend it on unique value, which could be anything from a pet social app to, I don't know, AI
Social
for
app.
note taking,
Interesting choice.
whatever it may be. Just throwing things out there. But when it's not part of your core product, login is so important, but you shouldn't have to spend time building it so that you should focus on what your unique value is. And as you see out there in the news these days, unfortunately, lots of data leaks happen these days, and you don't want to be subject to that. You want to have someone who can handle that for you and have the confident trust that they will continue to handle it for us so you won't have to do it yourself.
That's probably the biggest value prop, right? It is that data breach security side. How do you ensure a kind that you are meeting security requirements and then
Yeah.
you don't expose your customers effectively?
So our fourth hire was a security engineer. It is in our DNA of every person. Like I've learned so much about security before I even started. It is in the DNA of every single person to understand what good looks like and what bad looks like. What is a good security practice? And whenever there is something that we think is new on the market, because there's new hashing methods, there's new different ways to mitigate security risks. Our security engineer broadcasts into the channel and we read it. When there's a thing that's really important, he even makes us read it and said, I want you to tick this form to make sure you've read it for compliance reasons. Yes, you can get your SOC 2. Yes, you can get your ISO. Look, it helps for understanding when making a decision, have they done the due diligence? But really what I think makes a difference under the hood is being part of the DNA of security principles. So you're constantly obsessed with the modern security and you're obsessed with making sure that you have a platform that has security at the heart. One thing I think is related to this and it goes back to products, is everything we do has a trade-off of security and experience. So you can have a really nice experience within the login flow, but a lot of the time um, it will trade off of security. One thing I think is it's just one that came to mind. People keep requesting us, like we have email passwordless, where you enter your email and it sends you an email code, and the code is in the body of the email. We've had requests now and then where they're like, can you just put it in the subject? So I don't have to open my phone. I can see it right there and punch it in. Great. I understand the user experience there. That's less friction. But what if someone even sees your phone? They don't even have to authenticate. If you have certain settings, you can see that code and then they can
It
log into your
takes a
account.
little bit of security and puts a bit more risk onto.
So,
Yeah, it does.
so we always have to weigh up and have security as a priority. But what we do in certain cases, because it's always contextual, is we extend the platform. So if they really want to have it in the subject line, you can do so, but be wary of this. These are the security reasons and things you have to be concerned about, but it's all up to you. So we always have to have a stance on things, but then make it extendable so other people can extend it to their liking.
And this can be a boring topic for founders out there, but when you hit effectively shit hits the fan, and you have a security breach, your business can die from something like this, right? So it is important. Yes, you might be solving something like you said, social media for pets, or something like that's the problem you're solving. Security is important in any piece of technology, especially these days. The last 5 years have become it's catapulted up, and you would have seen that sort of growth with the product. I imagine as security is becoming more poignant in technology itself. What's changed? What are sort of some of the questions that you get that you didn't get 2 years ago when you started that you get now from engineers?
It's a lot of questions around people are actually more interested in how we implement our security mechanisms, what
Okay.
hashing methods to use,
Yeah.
what sort of fingerprinting, which is a very technical security term to determine information about the device being used. They want to know more about what's going on in the hood, and that's great.
Yeah.
We want people to know more if they want to know, but then you also have founders who are like, I just want to build the front door, secure my product. I don't want to have to worry about all this stuff. I just want to pick someone who I know is going to constantly handle it. So we have to cater to all audiences. We cater to those who are founders, and we cater to those who engineers want to know more. And they always also engineers bring up cases of other of scenarios because security is really complex. Like the attackers out there are getting smarter. There's cases that people want to mitigate, and they come up with really complex scenarios that they know is an edge case, but that edge case can be exploited. And they ask us, how do you block that kind of stuff? And I love to hear it because yes, we always want people to be certain we're blocking these certain scenarios. And I love bringing that security engineer that was fourth hired to course because he loves talking to customers for that kind of stuff, especially in engineers when they have those certain calls topics. So bring it on to a lot of the sales calls because he loves to be exposed to the customer to understand what these scenarios people think about, and he can say all this stuff by the back of his hand of what we do to mitigate these kind of things. There's a lot of, on that note, people are asking, there's also modern flashy authentication stuff coming out there like passkeys. Passkeys is a new thing where it's sort of come to a state where I don't think it's like early adopted. It's come a bit of like table stakes of people want to log in with passkeys because it's a secure mechanism and a flashy experience. So people come up to us asking for things like that. Can you support passkeys?
In terms of what's new in the space, there's always evolving. But in
It
terms of
is.
adoption of passkeys, I'll be fascinated to understand what the adoption is because you do see them pop up. I don't really engage with them to be honest, but yeah. So what's the adoption in terms of passkeys, and are you working with those?
So it's actually on our roadmap. We haven't
Yeah,
implemented it at the
got
moment,
it.
but we've seen it adopted a lot in the industry, and it's something that we know we just need to build, and we are going to get there very
Yeah.
soon.
Now, in terms of let's talk a little bit about some of the product offerings. Now, why is passwordless better than a password? What are some of the things why do you build things in certain ways? When I speak to
Yep.
customers, oh, you get a password or a token in your email. It's quick, easy for customers, but why is that somewhat better than having a password on an authentication layer?
So there's two reasons. From user experience point of view, obviously it's very contextual on the audience. Just
Yes.
before I dive in,
Yeah.
we have customers who have, not to generalize again, but an older demographic that aren't used to this and are so used to just email and passwords. So when you have an experience with an older demographic, when their assumption is you enter email and password, but you enter your email and then you get sent an email code, they get flustered. So sometimes it makes sense for email password, and that's okay. Our default is to do email passwordless if people always ask us. The reason for that is first the experience point of view. You only have to remember your email and
Hmm.
a credential to log into your email. You don't have to remember all these passwords across all different systems. Use a password manager. I recommend using a password manager, but you don't have to have so many different credentials across different systems. And you can always just access your email and enter it in. And you don't have to go to that time where you forgot what password you put into a certain website. And you can't access your password manager because
Then you got
it
to go through
is
the whole
it,
forgot password process, and 3 minutes later you
exactly.
might get into the system because it's a bit of a frustrating experience when you forget password.
Exactly. And so the user experience is genuinely better for the security point of view as well. Because you have that extra credential as your password, who knows what people do out there? Your password vault, I hope it doesn't, but it could get hacked. You could write it down on a piece of paper, which again, do not recommend doing, but if the world is a possibility. Whereas there's one sort of source of truth, which is your emails to access that code, and that is genuinely a more secure mechanism. So we think email password in most cases wins on experience and security.
Okay,
And you can
got it.
probably understand from that mindset how we think about things and
Hmm.
features in a general sense. There's always user experience and security.
You need both. It's yeah. If you can have something that's secure, you could send people out. Remember back in the day when you used to get these physical password keys, like authenticators, right? You could recommend people do that, and then everything's
Yep.
offline. But
Yep.
what's the experience like? And now it's just not really plausible for a platform,
Yeah.
right? So there's
It is
always
that is a very secure mechanism, a hardware
yes.
key. I have a hardware
Yes.
key for my
It's very
laptop.
secure. Yeah, it is. But it's not something you're going to push on your customers, right? That's going to be very
The
difficult.
experience
Yeah.
isn't there, but if they want
Yeah.
to optimize on security,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
most secure mechanism.
It is, but sometimes we need to trade off, like you said.
Yep.
What's the customer going to really need? What they want to get into the platform quite effectively. So
100%.
it's
We we never talked about the vision. I don't know if you quickly want to touch upon that of kind.
a product like Kind can be set and forget. It's easy to understand, easy to comprehend, but what is the vision? What are you driving this product towards? What's the end goal?
Yep. So our purpose is to create one more founders, and how we're doing that in our vision is to create a SaaS platform. In that SaaS platform, you have authentication, user management, feature flags. You can all do all those three things at the moment with Kind.
Mhm.
We are about to release billing to a bunch of more customers. We've already released it to a few at the moment. We're about to release it to a few more beta customers. And what I mean by billing is we will have an offering where you can jump into the Kind admin, create different plans. So let's say, example business, you have a free plan, pro, premium. Free is free, pro
Mhm.
$50 per month,
Mhm.
premium is $100 per month. And maybe on
Yep.
that pro and premium, you want to have it usage, a certain unit cost per monthly active user. And it's 50 cents on Pro, and then it's 40 cents per monthly active user in Premium because you get a bit more better unit costs. You can go into Kind, create different plans, create different features under those plans. So like they'll get entitled to a certain amount of free, more in Pro, more in Premium. Allow self-service, so they just sign up, go through registro into your product, entitled to those plans. And because we have monthly active user data as well, you can easily just charge based on that monthly active user and a base plan, or just within the Kind platform, just plug in your Stripe
Mhm.
account and basically do everything else and see which users and organizations are assigned to each plan so you have a source of truth as well. Um,
It's a
that's up.
nice step because there's a disconnect, right? And it's actually a good
Yeah.
little value add. Is that in beta
Well,
or is that early or?
It isn't beat at the moment.
Yeah.
And we've
Okay.
already gave early access to a few customers, and throughout February we're going to be very rudimental and be very selective about who we choose in beta. But soon GA, soon like that. Going back to the vision, we know SaaS platforms have authentication, user management, feature flags, billing, support, analytics, a few other things in the mix, but that's usually pretty much how people build a SaaS platform. There's many
Yep.
different providers out there. Like we're one of many in authentication. Feature flags, there's a lot. Billing, there's a lot of providers. Support, there's even more providers. Analytics, there's even more providers. Usually people pick all these different providers,
Yep.
have engineers build logic that will connect the dots between them and have a source of truth of all this stuff, and then maintain and upgrade it. And again, it goes back to that point where we want to build a world with more founders. We want engineers to be building on unique value that adds value to the market and not build on this stuff which is pretty common ground. So we envision a place where you can just plug in through the SDK to Kind, configure the stuff in the Kind admin, all these different things, and then just focus on unique value. And we're about to, like, we are always going to optimize on authentication, user management, and feature flags. About to open the gates, well, we've opened the gates for a little bit, but open the curtain with everyone with billing, and then somewhere down the line, analytics and support. And that's our vision.
In terms of billing, there's a bit of a change in the ecosystem due to usage. Are you considering that as a model in terms of, especially with AI
100%.
coming into products, how do you manage usage in terms of that space?
100%. Again, it goes back to what we think. We have a stance where if you ask us what is the best pricing, we think price based on the value you give. And the best ways the price is based on the value you give is usage.
Of
How
course.
much usage are you getting?
Yeah.
Gone are the days, I think, of where you pay for 20 licenses and only use 10.
It's
I'm not saying you
changing.
can still
Yeah.
do that.
People are getting wiser and smarter about what they're spending their subscriptions on and what's the best way to
100%.
position and value. Like in the end, if you're delivering value, people are happy to pay. But if they
100%.
subscribe to something for
5%.
12 months and they use it three times, that's they're eventually going to get some churn. People can hold on to subscriptions for too long, unfortunately. But good for
Yep.
SaaS businesses. But reality is, if you're not getting user usage, that's a critical issue in the product, really, when you think about it.
100%. And we're building a platform where it's really easy to do that. If you want to charge based on monthly active user, we have that data.
Yep.
But if you want to charge based on a customer event, we have APIs to ingest that data, and then you can charge based on usage. We have tons of customers AI space. Obviously, they pay for tokens down the line. They want to basically charge a bit of value for that token to their customers. So they want to basically send information about how many tokens used and stuff like that. And you can do that easily with our billing feature. Just configure a usage plan and then just ingest the data and then just configure it a monthly billing, and then it's just autonomous. They don't have to do anything else. They just need to let people sign up and record their usage. And that's
And
it.
Stripe's just a simple payment gateway, yeah? Similar.
Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
got it. Nice
Our
one.
plan is to be payment agnostic, but
Okay.
for the moment it's Stripe. That's where our audience is.
Most of the audience is there, isn't the reality?
Yep.
Yeah, they're the biggest player in that space. So it's,
For sure.
yeah,
And
definitely.
I delved into the past in that payment space. There's a lot of risk in the payment processing space. Stripe do a bloody good job of it. Don't think it's a space we want to go into anytime soon.
So stay away from that for the moment.
It's the subscription management. That's where we have found a value in the market. And it ties in so nicely with authentication and user management. You want to know in a given user what plan they're on, what features they're entitled to, and just have that all in a token. It just marries up so nicely. It makes sense.
And the feature flags, let's talk a little bit about that, because just so people understand what that means. It's effectively giving access to certain features, but how does that marry into your platform? So you can authenticate and give access to certain users. How does that come together?
So at the moment, our main use case for our feature flag is release management. So you can have unique flags per environment. So let's say you want to release it in a dev environment, a feature, and test around for it. Or you can do it per user or organization. Organization in Keyboard is a tenant, group of users, but you can also enable it on a specific user. Let's say you have beta customers or beta user. You want to enable a feature for them before you release it to everyone. You can do that again with our feature flag. And what that would happen is in a token is this sort of encrypted key when they authenticate with your product, and it gives you contextual information about who the user is and what they can access. And with our feature flags, there'll be information in the access token as to what they can access. And there'll be a flag that's saying, hey, this person's a beta user who has access to, the new login with Google, whatever it may be. Let's give them access. It's just as simple as that.
The one advantage of building Oh, building your product in that way has become more sticky, right? So it's hard to change your authentication layer if you're locked into features and subscriptions, and more sticky rather the better.
That is true,
From a
but
product
we have a
management, yeah,
policy.
yeah,
That is true, but
yeah,
we have a policy where
nice,
we don't believe in locking contracts.
yeah,
We also believe, and you can export all your data from the Kinde without speaking to us. That's your data. That we
yeah.
get it. Time progresses, there may be a better solution for you. You shouldn't have to go through barriers to go off us because, yeah, that's just an absolute pain. So we have ways for you to just roll off us if need be.
Yep, that's fair and gives people a bit of a confidence that, okay, I've got an option if things change. Because the bigger you integrate, sometimes the harder it is to exit if things change. So get that. So it's really good to share. In terms of products, how do you go about your product roadmap and management? So what are some of the critical things that you're doing in the business that enables you to go, okay, engineers, we need to spend our time here. How do you make your decisions internally? You're still effectively a startup yourselves in that realm. What does it look like internally? How you manage this sort of stuff in terms of product roadmap and where you put your energy?
Yeah, sure. I can share stuff about that. I guess before I dive into that, our approach to this, and this is something we constantly remind ourselves, is we build for what most customers need most of the time, and we
Yes.
always have to. But we layer on some context. I am in sales along with the sales team. So I bring basically information about what our customers need, and some of those sales opportunities where they're blocked by. Obviously, I'm also in support, so I understand from a holistic view what are our top requests.
Hmm.
Then there's just strategic roadmaps, things we want to dive into. Like, for example, let's say when we started working on bidding a long time ago, there wasn't any formal request or sales on it, but it was something we know we want to spend time in. How do we allocate time towards that? And then it's just a story we want to bring to the market. Like, we want to bring a good story that we actually currently have in beta our workflows and custom UI solution. Custom UI, you can basically bring your own CSS, HTML, JavaScript to authentication flow, and workflows have custom logic in the authentication flow. And we want to bring good story to market that we've got these all the extendable features. So, and also there's a lot of requests, so we prioritize that. We mix all these things together. I bring data to the table about the most requests and the sales opportunities, and then I get in every 6 weeks with the co-founders. There's two engineers, one's the CEO and background in design, and our design team, and we all get in a session. I bring all this data to the table, and we have an open discussion. What do we think we want to prioritize? In the end, based on all the information, we land on something where our gut feels the best. Because look, if you look into the numbers too much, you probably won't land on the right solution. And sometimes if you look into the numbers and quantitative information too much, you're going to talk about it too much when you should have just gone and built the thing.
Hmm.
So we always have discussions up to the point where we feel like, okay, this feels right, let's prioritize this. We specifically call them bets in
Hmm.
our, and they're usually 5 or 6 weeks, our development cycles. We call them bets because, look, I'm sure we've all been there. We build
You
software. We
are
set a goal for
building stuff
ourselves,
and not
but
necessarily it's used. Yeah.
we say we're going to do everything we can to hit these goals, but
Hmm.
we always try to strive for 150 and always try to overstrive. So we call them bets, so we know we're going to focus on it and we're going to do our best to hit it. If we hit 3 out of 4, that's still a pretty good bet to make. And everything is a bet. Everything, you're putting your effort into everything in the business, into something you think is going to give value, but you don't have complete value. It is a bet in everything you do.
There's no guarantees
Sales
in
is a bet,
anything that we
marketing's a
do,
bet,
everything. Yeah, right.
everything's a bet. So that's why we call it a bet as well.
No, very, very cool.
And throughout the development cycle, obviously, if things come up, we're very lean. We have weekly syncs, and obviously, we sync up ad hocly as well. And when things come up, we think we should prioritize one thing over another. We quickly just discuss it.
How big is the team at this stage of the product?
It's about 17 of
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting for people to understand. There's 17 people just focusing on authentication in a product. So
But we
it's,
have team
yeah,
members all along the east coast of Australia
yeah,
and also the UK.
yeah, yeah,
We
nice
cover
one.
all
Yeah,
time zones.
yeah. That's important when people are looking at this. But just to point that out, that 17 people focusing on one point of a product. So it does take a lot of effort to drive out, scale out, and evolve a solution. And in authentication, it's one of the reasons why we recommend Kind, and we have done for quite a number of years now. In terms of go out, work with a team like these guys. There are others, but yeah, it's been quite easy to
Do
work
your
with them.
research.
Yeah, been quite easy to work with them as engineers, and I find that good. So our team really likes integrating with you guys. So that's a positive and it's a tick. So you're winning the boat from our end. So that's why you got on the podcast today, and just thought we'd share a little bit about someone we're working with quite a bit in terms of our customers.
Nice. I always say as well, and so back to your point of selling to engineers, do your research. Look at providers out there. There's a lot out there.
There are.
Find the one that suits you. Do
Yep,
your
makes.
homework.
In terms of what gets you up in the morning, because you're doing a lot of stuff at the moment, what's the thing that lights you up in the world of product or sales or customers? What's that one thing that really sparks you?
Well, I'll give you context. But in my past workplaces, I always wanted to be close to the customer when I was a
Yeah.
product manager, and I understand there are certain principles there for reasons. Here, I get to speak to the customer all the time through sales or support, so through written or video communication. And constantly, you just see these people who are so obsessed with what we're doing, so obsessed about the new features, are just like blown away by what we do, and just like those reactions and validation of like just the love they have for us and sharing the word of kind, which constantly happens because I scroll our Twitter feed and other social channels, and just brings me such joy because again, I just want to bring value to our customers. I'm obsessed with the problem, which is a problem with customers, not our solution. I love our
Yep.
solution, but I'm obsessed with these customers who have a certain problem, and to see they get such value and joy and from the solution and validates it solving their problem. That's what brings me joy, and I get validation nearly every day because I'm in such a touch point with the customer. That's what gets me up in the morning.
Yep. Brilliant. Thanks, Oliver. Thanks for joining us today on the DevReady podcast, sharing a bit about your journey, about product, and about Kind. And if anyone wants to find out more about Kind, where do they find out, reach out? Who do they contact?
Just search up kind.com, so Kinde, so it's kind with E at the end.com, and just reach out. There you can book a time in our calendars or reach out through support as means on the website.
Oh, perfect. Thanks for sharing your journey to date and good luck with everything in the future vision. It's always fun bringing future visions, but I know that will change over time because it's the reality of product,
Sure,
so it will
gotta be
evolve.
lean.
Yeah, correct. Thank you all. I appreciate your time for joining us.
Cool, thanks, Andrew.